I want to welcome everyone to our KET Education Learn at Home series. Happy to be here with you today, and thank you very much for joining us. I want to first say Happy Teacher Appreciation Week. I know we have at least one teacher, perhaps more, joining us today, and I just want to thank you for all that you do. Certainly this situation that we've all been in for the last several weeks has shown, I think, everyone just how important, if they didn't already know, what teachers do is. So thank you so much. My name is Lynn Schaefer, and I am a KET education consultant. And my job, which very happy to have, because I get to work with teachers and students in our great state of Kentucky. And my main job is to help teachers and students, letting them know about our free KET resources and services. And so I'm going to give you a little more information about that as we go through today. I also want to say that I'm grateful that today I have a friend and a teacher who is our special guest, and she will be presenting some content with us, and her name is Kristen Cook. I want to say hi, Kristen.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Oh, well, thank you for coming. I'm so excited about this. So let me get us going here. Just a second. There we are. So housekeeping duties here at the beginning. You probably know the drill by now, but please, if you would, make sure that your microphone is muted. And if you have any questions or you want to make a comment, be sure to use the chat window. I cannot see the chat box while I'm sharing my screen, but my wonderful boss, Brian Spellman, is at the helm, and he will let us know if there are questions, or I'll make sure that we get to them before we finish. Or I can always email you later today if you share that information. Also, if you would, make sure your device camera is turned off. That seems to help a lot with the lagging or the stuttery internet connections we sometimes get. And enjoy. Okay. So just a quick overview, if you don't already know, a lot of people know KET as a place that they watch wonderful educational programming. But we also have an education division full of people like me who are out there to help teachers in Kentucky and beyond, really, and students. We do free on-campus as well as now online professional development workshops from the early childhood stage all the way through high school and beyond. We have resources and services also in the adult education and workforce readiness. And I just want to quickly show you our website is ket.org/education. And I'm just going to show it to you briefly here, point one or two things out before we get started with our content today. Okay, so here we are on our main KET education page. There is a contact link up at the top. You can see that really small there. That will take you into the page that shows all of the consultants that are available to help you. I am in K through 12 consultant, and so we are divided up. We divide the state up, and so we each have an area of the state that we cover. So we also work in any capacity that we're needed with other parts of the state too. If you want a specific person for your district, your area, you can click on that and you'll see the map of the state and you'll see our contact information. Also, I'm going to mention very briefly today just a little bit about PBS Learning Media, because I'm sharing some free resources that's relevant to today's topic. So you will really want to check out, if you don't know about PBS Learning Media, it's a free repository of educational resources from pre-K all the way through high school and beyond. Also contains free professional development, and I'm going to be sharing a lot of those things with you in a folder later in the presentation. And then the last thing I want to point out is you can browse our resources by grade levels. And by the way, if you haven't entered our Happy Teacher Appreciation Week giveaway. Please do that. There's a link right there. You might win some great swag from KET Education. And then our Learn at Home with KET Education. You can click here to find out about our on-air programming and instructional resources that we provide. And if you're interested while you're there, just sign up for our newsletter. It's free and it's an easy, quick submission. Okay, let me go back. Okay, so just to tell you today what we're going to be doing, we're going to talk about the reason for and the details of what I have called the one assignment, though it's much more creatively large than that name might suggest. I'll explain that. It's for families, but it's also something that teachers can utilize either now or looking ahead into the fall. It might be something that they want to use too. We're going to share free resources that are related to journaling, history, as well as some resources for you for learning at home, even youth mental health, and more. We're going to give you several examples of some writing and discussion or creativity prompts in some ways that you can journal. Because I mentioned in the title of the webinar, we're going to talk about journaling, and there's a lot of ways that you can do that to apply it to different interests and skill levels. And then we're going to share some examples of the things that we're talking about. So I want to start with this quote. I think it's very relevant. History may often appear to our students as something that happens to other people, but the present moment offers a unique opportunity for them to create their own historical record. And that's from an article called What We Can Learn from 1918 Influenza Diaries. And it was written by, the quote was from Mr. Kevin Levin, who is a historian and high school teacher. And I wanted to kind of use this to start our presentation because I think a lot of us think about history as something that we study in school, but not in the moment that we're in it do we consider that we are actually becoming a part of it and we can contribute to the historical record. And I just thought I would use these photographs that you can see here. The one on the left is from the 1918 influenza pandemic, and the one on the right is from our current situation. And you'll notice that I have links throughout this presentation, which you will have available to you later as well. So what is this one assignment? So the one assignment, the title of that came to me when I was thinking about a way to give something to families, which includes, students, of course, but families living together, various ages and generations, and just something that they could do to create something together. And I remembered from many years back when I think KET had the What If All of Kentucky Read One Book? And I remembered that. And I thought, well, what if we all kind of had this one assignment that we could all do together and maybe help to create this historic record in the process? So basically, it's a project, and it asks students to create with their families a record of what they experienced during this very unique time that we're all going through. It's also a way for teachers to encourage that multi-generational collaboration of students and their families, so they can work together. I mean, how meaningful is that, right? But they're also preserving history as it happens. And then they can use that perhaps as an opportunity to educate students about the role that journals and diaries have in the historic record. So I always, as a teacher, I always like to teach more than one thing, kind of slip some extra things in, and that's what this hopefully will do. Kristen, did you have a point there?
No, I was agreeing with you because I
Well,
think
thank
yeah,
you.
that's what teachers live to do is see how many things that they can sneak in. And even when we get to talking about what I did with my kids, yeah, it was sneaky because if you tell a group of teenagers that they're going to create a primary source, the reaction is, ugh. But if you word it the right way, it actually can turn into something really great, which is what my kids did. So yes,
Oh, I love that.
I
I
was just
love that.
nodding in agreement, and I was
Thank you.
giggling a little bit because we all, us educators, we all think alike a lot of times.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I used to teach. I taught college level English, but same thing. I was always trying to slip things in, and
Mhm.
um, and I asked because I saw that you were. It says on my screen that you were speaking, and I wanted
Oh,
to give you a chance to
yes,
a
thank
chance
you. No,
to
I
chime
was
in.
it
Yeah,
just caught me giggling, that's all.
that's okay. Well, let me show you just real quick here. I have a link, and I'm going to show you. Yeah. Oh, here it comes. Good. So in PBS Learning Media, which has all these multimedia resources, all subject areas and grade levels, you can notice you can do a search up here for resources, and I'll show you the main screen in just a few minutes. But I have created um, a folder, which is something that you can do as a teacher or educator at home, parent, caregiver. You can create folders of your favorite resources. And so I like to share things out with teachers. So I might have a teacher ask me for something in social studies, and so I put it together and I send it to them. And that's what I have here for you. I'm not going to go through all of these, of course, but a few things I just wanted to highlight for you. Right here, the first one that's listed is When Life Gives You Lemons, a COVID-19 pandemic journal. So that can be very useful to you. Notice that the grade relevancy here is pre-K through 12, and it comes from Montana PBS, and it's a document. And so let's just open that up really quickly and give you a sense of what this is. There are a lot of videos in learning media, but it's not just videos. Okay, and I'm just going to quickly let you have a look. Okay. I like this sheet because it gives you several ideas to use with your students or with your kids, with your family members, yourself. And it talks about how, yes, we are living through a historic event. And then, let's look around and kind of pay attention and view it as an event in that sense. And so there's some prompts and there's choices. I love choices. So you could do a Google Doc if you're into Google. You could do a digital portfolio like Google Sites, something I forget about being there. You could do a blog. They mentioned kidblog.org. You can do a handwritten letter and journal. And this comes from Montana. So Montana's History Museum, one of their museums, is collecting to archive and preserve memories. And I'll share a couple others with you too that you might want to contribute to later. Okay, and then there's prompts listed for you and teacher and parent tips. And one of the things I saw on here earlier that I liked was don't feel you have to type it up. And sometimes, students, if your students have been finishing up school at home virtually, they're really tired of looking at a screen. So maybe the good old fashioned handwriting might be just as good. And so I agree with that. All right, let me click out of that. Just a second, I have a screen issue here. Okay, I'll just do that. Oops, I went back, sorry. User error, I think. Okay, all right. Okay. Oh, I actually did not want to go out of that. Let's see if I can get back to it. Yeah. There we go. Sorry about that. Then there's also this at the second item in the folder is making sense of coronavirus through media and storytelling. And it's the only other one here I think I'll show you right now. It is from the student reporting labs, and it was updated very recently, as you can see, April 20th. Okay. And I like this safety note. I did want to point out, we're encouraging you to record what you see and to take, and in a little bit, I'll be talking about photographing things. And I just want to say, safety first. I would follow safety rules when you're out and about.
Yes.
But if you,
Yes.
right, this is very important. And I liked that was there to help me remember to tell you that safety should come first. What I've been doing personally to start recording these things that I'm going through, I just take far away snapshots with my phone, or I zoom in. Like the other day, there was a woman going through the Starbucks drive-through window, not in a car. She was just walking around. And I thought that was interesting, and maybe something I wouldn't have seen in a different time. So I took a picture, but I was at a safe distance. I was in my car. And that's for my personal scrapbook, obviously. I wouldn't put that out there. But this is a wonderful resource about telling your story and how to do it. It has a glossary, and it's just very detailed and gives you specifics, like, are you sick at home? Are you scared for yourself, your loved ones? Worried about your job? Unfortunately, that's a reality. And then you can do all kinds of different things with what you have, and they give you tips with links to produce your story. So we'll talk about that too. Okay. So just to quickly show you what PBS Learning Media, when you go to the main page to do searches for resources, it's right, this is what it looks like, and there's a search box. All you have to do is go to ket.pbslearningmedia.org, and then you're good. You can research sources. You can save them, your favorites. You can make folders. You can share with anyone. I recommend signing up, though. If you sign up, then you get all of access to the tools. Like, you can do lesson plans. You can do a storyboard, which I'm going to show you in just a bit. And so that's what it looks like. The student version looks like this. It's much more colorful. Don't let those colors throw you, though. It is relevant for all students, even older students in kindergarten and beyond. Once you search for resources, you will see a wide variety of things. And students can do a search. They can favorite items, and their assignments and everything appear there. Great place to do research that's safe and full of credible information from good resources like NOVA or KET and so forth. And I do want to say here at the beginning, when I say journaling, I don't mean you just have to write in a journal or a diary. It can be anything that works for you. I mean, there are video diaries and video journals. There are essay stories, photo stories or photo essays. Really, audio. You can interview people or people in your family, or or record yourself just speaking if you don't want to do video. So journaling can include students and adults, so you can create separately and then come back together to share. You can create together. You can use photography. You can interview. You can do anything that you like, and you should do anything, and any combination of things. The whole point here is collaboration, and preferably multi-generational collaboration. What a great way to take advantage of some time that you might have with people. And if you are socially distanced from some of your family members, and if you do have the access to some technology, whether it's FaceTime or whatever, you can interview people that way from a distance, or they can share with you what pictures they've taken, and you can add them to the record as well, and maybe feel like you're connecting with them more. Which is what I think we're all seeking right now. So Living Through History assignment, why for families? Well, I have to mention here and just show you briefly this lovely person named Lauren Brown. I encountered her article, which you're looking at right now, which has been updated. So I found this back in March and loved it. I saw it on Facebook, and Lauren is a history teacher, social studies teacher at a middle school in, I think, suburban Chicago now. And she was reflecting on how she had given students several weeks previously 9/11 lessons, and they were talking about the tragedy of 9/11, and then suddenly, as she's realizing we're in the midst of another moment, another historic event, and it's not easy. And so she had questions from her students, which is what I'm looking at right here, like, or statements like, we went to Costco this morning and the line was all the way to the back of the store. My dad is worried he'll lose his job. Mrs. Brown, have you ever lived through anything like this? This will be in the history books, won't it? So when I saw that, I thought, this is what I'm looking for to put out there for Kentucky and for beyond, whoever would be interested. And Kristen's going to talk a little bit more about that, but I just wanted to acknowledge Ms. Brown. And I will say that you will be linked to this, and you will have access to her wonderful Google Slides, and some of the prompts in there she has given me permission to use, which you'll see in just a few minutes. Put her out. So here are some good reasons to do this for families. You're going to excuse me, just a second. Very sensitive there. I think I breathed on it and it changed. You're modeling for your kids, for your students, lifelong learning. So you're learning from each other. Together as a family, you're reading some credible, I hope, sources about what's going on in the world, and other people's experiences too. You're also preserving your own family history, what you're experiencing daily, and you're helping to preserve national and really global history. And you're also sharing focused time together, right? Studies seem to suggest that when we do these things, when we create and when we work together as a family, we reduce our stress. It feels right to me. I mean, there's research to back it up, but it feels good to me. So I think Kristen now is going to talk a little bit about why do this from a teacher's perspective.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add, when you said that, it dawned on me too, like within the family, we're all spending so much time together that this is a great project just because my experience feels very different than my 13-year-old's experience. Her experience is very different than my 4-year-old's experience. So I think too, it teaches a lot of perspective. My daughter speaks to her grandmother every night. Her perspective is so much different. So I think it's kind of wrapping your head around all of those different experiences and realizing that, okay, my stress is not her stress, but she's got something else going on. So I think that's why I love this too. For me as a teacher, and I don't know how many of you here are teachers, but I think in the first couple of weeks, we all expect it to come back. And so for us, for me at least, my assignments were, okay, we're just going to continue and we're going to move on like we're in class, and I'm going to give you all of these assignments. And, I guess as we realized that it was going to look very different and we realized we weren't coming back, I just happened to ask a question to my students, almost as just like a reflection question. And this was probably 2 or 3 weeks into NTI and quarantine. And I was just very shocked, I guess. I don't know why I was shocked, but I was shocked at how much they responded to that simple little question. I think it was just like, hey, today it's Friday. What's going on in your life? I haven't seen you in 3 weeks. Tell me. And what I was getting back was everything, right? And I teach 8th grade. 13 and 14-year-olds who, some days they want to talk to you and some days not. But I mean, I was just getting so much back from these kids, and I was just realizing, they're scared and they're stressed out, and they want to come back. That was the biggest thing. I want to come back to school. I miss you. I miss my friends. And so this Lynn's post on KET about Lauren Brown was actually kind of, for me, divine intervention, because I thought, okay, my kids need an outlet. I need a connection to them. I really was feeling, here we are and we spend 8 hours together with these kids. And a lot of these kids this year were children. My daughter is also in 8th grade. And so, these were kids that had been in our lives all the time. And suddenly they weren't. And so, selfish of me, but I wanted the connection. The kids needed an outlet. And so the idea of the journal kind of just happened. And I used some of Lauren Brown's prompts to start that Lynn had shared. And then I kind of just came up with some other ones based on what the kids were telling me or needing to talk about. And it ended up being one of the best assignments I've given all year. It was very authentic. The kids really poured their effort and emotions into it. And it really, it helped me get a glimpse into where they were with this. And it helped me be able to kind of talk to them and open up dialogue between us. And not that they weren't sharing that with their parents, but I'm sure everybody here knows that when you spend so much time together, sometimes you just need a different person to vent to or talk to. And so the journal was just, I was so pleased with what I got out of these kids. And for me, because I also think like a history teacher all the time, it was them creating a primary source without really knowing that that's what they were doing. And so it was real world. It was very authentic to what we're going through. This is such a historically relevant moment for all of us, and to not capture it seems insane. So again, it's how you present it to kids. I did not put a lot of restrictions on it, and I really, for this, left them to kind of be as creative as they wanted to. And yeah, this picture that's coming up on the screen, it makes my heart sad, because I'm sure if you have your classroom, my kids are engaged all the time with me, with each other. I try to always have a lot of group work and dialogue and discussion. And to go from what you see on the left to what you see on the right, is just, it's not the same, as I'm sure many of you know. And so that was one of of course, that's my empty classroom. And then one of the first Zoom meetings that we all had as a team. So I've got several teachers and students in that other picture. But I just, it was great snapshots of their lives. I really, some of them took pictures. Some of them just felt comfortable enough writing. I told them that they could do a video. It was something that I could also offer to my kids that were not able to use technology. And so I presented it as, if they wanted to do a Google Slides, they could. But I left it really open for them, because I wanted it to be a creative outlet for them. And then for the kids that did not have technology, they received the same prompts, and I told them that they could make a booklet or present it however that they wanted to. So I haven't seen any of those yet. We just are collecting NTI work this week, so I'm hoping to see some of that. But you forget middle schoolers can just, sometimes they're great and sometimes they're quiet, and you don't really know what they're thinking or plotting or planning. So yeah, I just pulled out on the screen that Lynn has now. I just pulled out some things that really spoke to me when I was reading them. And I think self motivation was one of those things. Kids loved almost every journal started out with, when I first heard about NTI, I was so excited. Um, and then, you can kind of see the timeline too, because I gave this assignment in pieces. And so you could kind of see that, hey, it started out and it was a very exciting thing. And we were going to be at home and I was going to sleep in. And then, you kind of see how that changes and that they're bored. Um, they're lonely. They don't know what to do. They're with their family all the time, which for a lot of them was great. They said, I've spent more time with my family than ever, and this is fantastic. A lot of them had worries, teaching eighth grade, they're going up to high school next year. So there's one student who said, next year I'm anxious because I'll be a high schooler and I'm not ready. And, it reminds us of how much they missed. They missed going up to the high school for orientation and the tour and all of the special things that they get to do as eighth graders. And they, as much as educators, we're thinking, oh my gosh, how are we going to fill in the gaps? These kids feel that too. So it just, I loved this project. I would encourage anybody. I know a lot of school years are coming to an end, but there's so many different ways that you can do this. And even I know Lynn's going to show us some ways that we can help our elementary kids journal and things like that. And I've even used one of the things that Lynn shared. I've used with my 4-year-old. So if you're at home and you're an educator on top of trying to educate your other ones at home too, Lynn reminded me that it's, I think, very, teenage. I'm in the teenage brain, but I have a 4-year-old at home and he was having some frustrations and behavior changes. And so I took the prompt. I'll try to seg you in here, Lynn. I took one of the prompts for the elementary students, and I said, what are you feeling today? Draw me a picture. And it's a good reminder to us as parents too. Like, your younger kids have emotions that we're probably not thinking about.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
So yeah, but I would encourage anybody who, whether you're an educator, whether you're just somebody at home, looking for something for your family to do. I think that this is an excellent outlet. And I will say that 2 students actually emailed me and said, thank you. Like, thank you for letting us do this. Like, I feel so much better was the phrase. I feel so much better after doing this. Like, I didn't realize how tense and stressed out I was. And
that's
so
good to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and that's a good point to us. We've all been in this together, facing different obstacles, but this was an obstacle that I think, as a teenager, they probably had all these feelings and didn't know what to do with them. And here was an outlet. So I think when I started it, it was kind of just a fun assignment, but it turned into so much more than that. So I just, I would encourage everybody to find a way to do what fits for your family or what fits for your students.
Well, and I can imagine too, as everybody feels their way through the summer and toward the new school year, that this still being relevant.
Yes.
The different stages and so forth. So
absolutely.
Thank you so much. Do you care if I push ahead there?
No, please do.
That was wonderful. And I'm so glad I didn't know about the students who emailed you. So thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
Let's see here. Oh, there we go. So Lauren Brown, some of the prompts that she had shared, and I mentioned earlier that you will have access to her slideshow. So you can go in and just fill in the blanks. I mean, you can just take the prompt, delete her little sentences there, her prompts, and just put in your own. I mean, it would be that simple. I just pulled 1 or 2 here for you. So like, the moment this hit you, when did you realize this was a much bigger deal than you originally thought it was going to be? What are you already sick of? Like, now more than ever, what do we have to do? What are you being told that you have to do all the time, even from your teachers? Are there memes, jokes that stick out to you that you want to record? Also, bad days and silver linings. So, what's been the hardest thing that you've done? But what are some upsides? What are some things that maybe you've got time for now that you didn't have time for before? And what's going on in the area where you live? Are people out and about? Are they talking? I talked to my neighbor. She's on one side of the street, I'm on the other. We yell out, but it works out just fine. You can add a picture of something that you've seen when you're out walking safely, please, or driving. And then just some more prompts I put in here for you. I will tell you there's a link. I'm not going to go to it today, but it's from Wright State University. And there's a library, the Special Collections and Archives, like many organizations, are asking for people to submit their experiences. And so these are some prompts. These would be best, I think, for high school students and adults. But the suggestion I really liked makes this real easy, so there's no pressure, which is in bold. Just record stuff. However you want to do it, do it. Just do it. Doesn't matter, no rules. Okay, I like that. And then what Kristen was saying a few minutes ago, that's why I included these quotes here before I show you a few prompts for the youngsters. I saw these quotes. There was an article from Slate Magazine back in March, and see, I'm getting chill bumps just looking at them right now. Julia, age 10, says, if you cry into a stuffed animal and your friends hug it, would any germs spread? I mean, how sad, right? That a 10-year-old is having to think about such things. And then Elizabeth, and I will say that these students or these writers are the Slate writers' children. I did see that. Eliza was afraid that her dad, or her dad told her in this portion that I picked about this is going to be something that kids will learn about in the future. And that made the student think about Anne Frank, which I was really glad to see. She's 9 and she thought about Anne Frank, but then this, she says, Anne Frank died. I almost grunted a short, blunt oof right then and there. Wow. So this made me think, we have to think also about the youngest of us. And so here's some, in that vein, here's some prompts that I put together. By the way, the adorable picture of the twin girls is my colleague Allison. It's her little girls. And oh my goodness, look at those faces, right? Here are a few prompts for you. Tell me about your favorite time of day now, or what I miss most about school is because. What do you look forward to doing when you can be around friends again? I like when my family blank. So with the very youngest students, of course, they won't be able to write or write very well. You can do a lot of fill in the blanks. You can take prompts and turn them into fill in the blanks. And I think it's sweet to see their handwriting. I love to see kids' own handwriting. They can fill in a word or two. But otherwise, you can be their helper, which is, I know kids love that, right? I am going to be, I used to be secretary for my daughter, Sydney. I'm going to be your secretary. So tell me what you want to say to Santa or whatever. But tell me about these things and I'll help you write some of them. Or take a picture like the one there and say, this looks like you had fun. Tell me about what you did that day. So you can take pictures, recent pictures as well. And then they will add the story, the narrative to what happened that day and what you did together. Oh, wait, let me go back a second. I forgot. Here's one thing. This is just a very short, quick resource from Learning Media that you might show students. It's very short. It's from Sesame Street, and it introduces the idea of journal, because youngest kids may not know what that is. Okay, and so that's a very helpful. And then just one other one. I like this one. It's also from Sesame Street, and this is in the folder that I've created for you. This one talks about it in a very general way, and you could see how it would apply to the kinds of things we would be writing about probably now. And then this is something, I guess this would fall under the category of something I've been hearing a lot about lately, choice boards. So you can offer students different choices within an assignment. And so they could look at this sheet and they could pick one of these things to do. You could make a couple pages of these, cut the rectangles out and make cards that you could shuffle. And maybe today we're going to do one of these, or maybe every Saturday we're going to do one of these. So they can snap photos or draw some pictures of your day. And then you're going to tell me about what you did tonight. A lot of kids these days are like my daughter. When she was younger, she had an Instax camera, which is basically a Polaroid camera in my day. So they could snap some pictures, or they can draw pictures. They could write poems if they want, or story. They can write a story with pictures about something that you've been doing a lot lately, or draw a picture about finding out your school was closed. How did you feel? Maybe a picture of yourself finding out about your school. And then speaking of video and interviewing family members and so forth, I just wanted to mention, and there is a link here, I thought. I'll make sure I add that in. I apologize. I thought I put the link in. That will take you into learning media to our KET collection called Video Production Behind the Scenes with the Pros. So this has everything from, there's a video category where we have different folks talking about how to make good videos and how they do that. How to somebody well. There are all kinds of handouts and instructional materials to go along with it. Lighting and graphic arts, everything, all the different jobs that go into making a video production. And I will say it's also a really good collection if you have young people in your life who like doing some of the activities, and maybe they've even talked about someday doing that as a job. So I have a lot of students that I've met with who like to draw. I say, you might be a graphic artist, and we have people like that who work at KET, and then I refer them to this collection. So you might want to check that out for sure. We also have this wonderful infographic by my colleague Amy Grant, and she put this together. I think it's so helpful. So if you just want some quick tips to make your video quality better, whether you're shooting from a fancy studio camera or just on your phone, which most of us do, or an iPad, about where to put the camera and think about the lighting and think about the audio and so forth. And I think that's a very helpful quick tip sheet. Now, the important thing too is, even if you're working together on things, and many of you may work with your students or your children, and then you might do something, write some things or take photographs and work separately. But at some point you want to make sure that the key step here is exploring together what you've created. And so here are some ideas that I came up with. Make a scrapbook, an old-fashioned scrapbook. Put pictures and notes and some of your journal entries. Go through what you've created together, and then that's something that you'll have. This idea, the second idea I'm definitely wanting to do is making a time capsule. So look at what you've created together and decide what you want to put in your, let's say a shoebox that you've got in your garage that you want to put in. Decide when you want to seal it up. Write the date a year from now or 2 years from now, and you're going to look at it together when that date arrives. And just something to look back on and reflect, and also to help you plan ahead, which I think is helpful for young people. Make a Facebook.
And Lynn too, can I interrupt for a second?
Yes,
my kid, I just had an idea when you were saying about the time capsule. My kids have been writing a lot of letters. To friends. I mean, it's kind of, why do you need to write a letter when you can text? But this has changed all that. And so they have been writing and receiving letters from friends and grandparents and other family members. And, I just told my daughter the other day, I said, make sure you save those. Like, those are going to be precious for you to have someday. And that would be great to put in a time capsule or shoebox, like you're saying. because even my 4-year-old has been writing letters, just cutting things out, and he's learning how to write his name. So he's got his name in his little 4-year-old handwriting. So
Oh, Nate the
you
Great.
you haven't lived life until you've quarantined with Nate the Great. But
No, I think not.
yeah, that will be precious for him to have someday, or for me to have as a parent. And just those letters from grandparents too is what keeps tugging on my heart.
Oh
Um,
my goodness.
10 and 20 years from now.
That so much. And also you know this, and I bet everyone listening has maybe experienced this if you've got young people. Um, we are working on things that we want to take and drop off at people's doors. Some of my daughter's friends, and some of the things she writes, I take a picture of it for myself to keep for myself. And then, we'll take little notes around. We're a little slow doing that because there's a lot of friends, but even when my daughter if she gets out to take something to the front door and she's trying to sneak up there and leave it and run back, I'm going to snap photos of that. Partly because that's just what I do. I photograph everything. But
Right.
Right. But you could also take some of these things, like one of the letters maybe that the grandparents wrote, and maybe one of the letters, like Nate. Maybe you helped Nate put together a letter in his little handwriting. You can frame these things.
Yeah.
I love to hang things on the wall. I would even make a collage wall together. And I will say, a lot of like research museums and schools and other places are looking for submissions. And I linked you guys to a couple of these things here. I won't go into those now, but one of them is accepting stories uh, for a record. And then one of them is specifically looking for photographs. And it's really easy to submit things to go into this permanent record. So those are links there if you're interested in doing that. Then I think I've hit the annotate button and I need to not do that. Okay. One last thing that I want to suggest that you do, and I apologize if you can't see my pictures very well unless you get really close to your screen, but you can create what's called a storyboard in PBS Learning Media. I was talking about PBS Learning Media earlier. And if you register for it, one of the 4 tools that they have is Storyboard. And so you can create, and I'm going to show you just very quickly here how easy it is. So you can either assign your student or your child to do a storyboard. So you can say, hey, I want you to take some of your photos and write a little bit, or you can take a picture of their drawings and then you can pull them into Storyboard, or you can create your own. And when you go in, I'm just going to very quickly show you. It's a drag and drop. It's very simple. So if you want to add video or photos, you use a media box. You accidentally delete something, that's okay. You go up here, you get a media box, you drop it, you can size it, you can move things. And this is the length of it. So you have a finite space. You save as you go. That's something that students don't often have to do anymore. But you save, you can preview it, you can share it, you can also print it. And you can put anything like this that you create into a folder if you want to, which is what I did. So I believe I've included my storyboard in the folder that you will get. But you can see what I did. Mine says my POV, my point of view, coronavirus 2020. This is maybe my favorite right here. This was the first time Sydney, my daughter, and I had talked to my grandmother, or actually seen her face in months. And I don't know, you can zoom in later if you're interested, but I took a shot of us talking on FaceTime, and you can see how excited my face is and my daughter in the background.
And it's 4 generations. That's kind of neat. That's awesome. All in the same shot.
She's going to be 92 soon, and we just really miss her, of course, and my mom too. But so that helps. So that was a key part of my experience so far. This is a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle that we are working on right now. Which jigsaw puzzles, if you didn't know, are just about as hard to find right now as toilet paper. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they are.
too.
People want, but that's really cool because you think, okay, people are probably doing these things together, so that's great.
Mhm.
Picture of me with my mask and some of the signs we all see out. This is a picture of a friend that we drove by. My daughter was desperately lonely, and I said, let's just go for a drive. And we texted her friend who had just gotten out of the shower. She came outside so we could wave. That was our visit. And then the meat being gone, we had at that point in this whole process, we had no meat, which is unfortunately going to be an issue again, apparently. Um, this is my daughter's attempt at humor. On my grocery list, she added underneath my mashed potatoes, she wrote "the will to live," smiley face.
Nothing like a dramatic teenager in
Yeah,
your
well,
life,
she and I
right?
share we shared a dark sense of humor anyway, so I knew she put the smiley face, so she was
Right,
okay.
right.
And then
No,
she
it's
had, yeah,
teenagers sometimes.
yeah. And then there's a picture of her that she took of herself, and it says, "How is this so hard?"
Mhm.
And she showed me that, and she said, "Mom, it's okay. You can use that if you want to in your storyboard." And I was like, that I've had moments like that myself, and so I thought it was important to include how difficult this whole thing is. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, and then just if you got even more ideas, you can Google journaling ideas, preserving your family history for coronavirus, and there's so much. But I found two really great things here. One is an article, but well, actually, both are from the New York Times. One is really great. It gives you 12 very detailed ideas for writing through the pandemic. I mean, these are very creative, even letters to the editor. Very interesting. And they include journaling, and you get to read about other people's work and ways that you might contribute if you want to publication. And then I don't know if Amelia is with us today. She asked me to send the link to this webinar. Amelia Nierenberg, she wrote an article called The Quarantine Diaries for the New York Times. And this is to the right is an image from one of the journal entries that she included, and she gave me permission to use this in my webinar. And I just was struck by this. This is like a 20-something-year-old woman who was worried because her stomach was hurting, and she says, "Okay, that's probably not COVID, but I'm still worried. And now I'm worried that our 14-day supply of food might not be enough." And I was just struck by the honesty of that, kind of representative. So if you're there, Amelia, hello. I don't know if she could make it or not. So lastly, our folder that I mentioned, the PBS Learning Media folder, which includes lots of great history, social studies resources about like the Civil War, some of the Civil War diaries, and the influenza pandemic, as well as the other things that I showed you today. Those are all listed in that folder. All you have to do is click there, and you can share that with anybody that you wish. You can add to it. Also, don't forget that you do have a resource in us at KET. If you have questions or you would like help with resources, please contact us at mti@ket.org. We're always here and happy to help out if we can. And I want to say thank you to Chris and Cook for helping show the relevancy even more so than I could have done alone.
Well, thank you
And
for having me. I've never done a webinar before, so thank you.
well, now you have.
I know, right?
Yeah, I hadn't either until very recently. So we're all learning together. But I thank you to everyone who attended